Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamanatiravana Chadi Jamanatiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dadi Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Yamanatiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. We have an ecstatic light bulb here. Keeps enjoying flashing. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Before we begin, be prepared, if you so desire. There are hosts here to speak whatever questions or topics you'd like to hear further on, because that's where we're going after reading. And then, because that will give time for the online people to send in their online questions. But if you have nothing, that's fine. But if you have something, that's better than fine. We're reading from Canto 10, Chapter 14. This is Brahma's Prayers. And maybe I need to give a little background. Do you, two girls and young man here, do you know who is Lord Brahma? A little bit? Yes. Do you know the Brahma Vimohan Leela? No. Lord Brahma stole the calves And cowherd boys put them in a cave to see what Krishna would do? No, okay. Krishna enters this earthly realm once in a day of Brahma. And the day of Brahma is long, 4,320,000,000 years. That's how long his day is. And then his night is of equal duration. So that's how much the interval of time is between when Krishna appears again. And when Krishna appears, Brahma comes to pay his respects. The particular incident is when Krishna was 5 years old. When he was 5 years old, he was still herding calves because he was a little 5-year-old boy, is small, and cows are really big. So herding calves with his friends. And the beginning part of chapter 12, just something like 11 verses in a row that are just describing what they would do when they would leave in the morning from their homes. This particular morning, Balaram was not there. He was some festivity that he was asked by his mother to attend in honor of his star of birth, some ritual was going on. So Balaram was not there. Krishna and his cowherd boys were there, and they played and played and played and played and played, and they were doing together as if little boys would do. And they were having a great time. And in that mood of adventure and fun and so forth, the mood changes, the scene changes, and they came across a giant serpent, 12 miles long, with his jaw open and his upper jaw touching the clouds, really big guy. And then the cowherd boys, in that mood of joy and adventure and exploring what's next, they had some discussion. They decided they would enter. Maybe it's whatever it may be, but Krishna will protect us. Let's go check it out. And off they went inside the mouth of the Aghasura demon. The calves followed right behind them with their tails in the air. And the Aghasura demon didn't clamp. It was like a python. He didn't clamp his mouth because he wanted to kill Krishna. So Krishna entered, and because he knew what to do, he has a siddhi, a mystic power, to become bigger than the biggest. It's one of the Ashta siddhis, 8 mystic powers. He's Yogeshwara. He's the master of all powers. So he became bigger and bigger and bigger. The python expanded his body bigger, but Krishna became bigger than the python. He suffocated. The soul left through the soft part of the top of his head, Aghasura. An illumination went into the sky. When Krishna came out of the mouth of Aghasura, that soul, that illumination was the soul, merged into the body of Krishna. Liberation. Sayuja liberation. It's even said, subsequently Krishna gave him a further liberation, a four-armed form on Vaikuntha, like his, Sarupya form, that type of liberation. So, Brahma was there with his swan carrier in the sky, observing all this, and went, wow, that was pretty good. Well, I wonder what, I'm curious, he was inquisitive to know the extent of Krishna's mystic power. And the answer, he got his answer. There is no limit to Krishna's mystic power. So what he did wasn't very nice. Being inquisitive is fine, but he kidnapped the cowherd boys and the calves, put them in a cave, and went back to the place where Krishna was to see what Krishna would do. And much to his surprise, there were the calves and there were the cowherd boys, having lunch. So he went back to the cave, and they were in the cave. So they went back to where they were having lunch, and they're having lunch. And then all of a sudden, the cowherd boys were still manifested, but also unlimited forms of Narayan, along with each calf and each cowherd boy, surrounded by their manifested potencies of all descriptions, because how many potencies does the Lord have? They're without limit. And they were there they were, personified, singing his praises, and the personified Vedas, and there's a long description of what he saw. And then the universes, plural, were manifested before him. He didn't just see the universal form, he saw the universes. And then, poof, they all went away. Krishna withdrew them all, and just showing his own form. And so Brahma offered prayers, and that's where we are. Brahma's prayers. The first one, he's describing the form. He's also describing the lump of yogurt and rice that's in his hand. That's a nice preparation, yogurt rice. And his smile, and his dhoti, and his complexion, and the peacock feather in his hair. He's describing this original form of Krishna that's the source of everything. Concluding, I'm summarizing the first verse, wishing to attain him. Wishing to attain him means Brahma knows how to build the universe, but he doesn't understand and doesn't have the mood of the residents of the Vrindavan, like the cowherd boys. That's higher than him, and he wishes to attain that association of Krishna in that intimate Vrindavan feature. That was the first verse, and then the second verse was, besides his form, here's some of his features or opulences or vibhutis, his powers, his excellences, and they're described. And he says, I can't understand them, and I can't understand you, and I can't understand the happiness that you're experiencing. And that brings us up to this evening's verse number 3. We started with it this morning, we'll complete it this evening. And those of you that like to chant the Sanskrit can get the verse in front of you, unless you already know it. It's 10:14:3. It's a celebrated verse while they're looking it up. It's a verse that Lord Chaitanya said, this verse expresses the goal of life and how to achieve it. Because he said he wanted to attain Krishna. This is explaining how to attain Krishna. So it's important for us to wish to attain Krishna, to know how you do it. The goal and the means to achieve it. So we'll say the verse together, responsively. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva. Jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam. Sthanestatakshrati gatam tadavan manobhir. Ye prayaso jitajito pyasi traistilokyam. Translation. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge and, with their body, words, and mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, just like what we're doing right now. Dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally, and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, Jita, although you are otherwise ajita, unconquerable, by anyone within the three worlds. Now we're going to read some commentary. This is Jiva Goswami. A little background probably is helpful. Jiva Goswami is one of the principal associates of Lord Chaitanya. So in Vrindavan, of the foremost of his numerous exalted associates were the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They resided there and gave leadership to the Vaishnava community in Vrindavan, and they wrote many, many books. Jiva Goswami is one of them. He's very erudite and his writings are very amazing. So here's from Jiva Goswami's commentary. So this is describing the process, the means to achieve the goal and the goal. The devotees, giving up the effort to search for you, hear topics of your form, qualities, and pastimes with intense devotion, and by that bring you under control. You are such a person that is described in this verse. Now, we just passed the Kartik month. And in the Kartik month, we heard for a whole month about the Damodar pastime where Mother Yasoda bound Krishna with rope. So she, with her love, controlled Krishna. This is speaking not just Mother Yasoda. Those who live in Vrindavan have such intense feelings of love for Krishna. They control him with their love. They're not trying to control him. They're trying to serve him. But their feelings of loving service is so strong, it brings Krishna under control. Ajita becomes jita. The unconquerable becomes conquered. That is described in this verse. They give up consideration of the powerful aspects of your form, because within Krishna there's unlimited, everything is within Krishna, and there's the powers of Krishna, and there's the sweetness of Krishna. And they let go of the powers of Krishna's, that aspect of your form, trying to understand by speculative knowledge the limit, as was Brahma, wanting to understand the limit of Krishna's powers. Your devotees give up consideration of the powerful aspects of your form, jnane udapasya, and out of longing remain in places where there are devotees, rather than wandering about on pilgrimage with great suffering to the body. They respect your topics. Now this came up, it was part of yesterday's verse, text number 2, and it's part of this verse, text number 3. The topics. The topics become the deity of the advanced devotees. They may have deities, but the topics give them access to the deity form. And the mood of the worship of the deities becomes enhanced and matured. So the topics, that aspect, they respect your topics, namantaha, by their body, mind, and words. At the time of hearing, they respect you with the body by folding their hands. They respect the topics by words, by speaking in agreement. They respect the topics by the mind, by maintaining faith in your existence. They respect the topics about you or your devotees, like Nanda, Bhavadiya, which are spoken loudly in order to drive away agitation of the senses and untruth Although generally the devotees remain silent, in this way they pass their lives. Jivanti. Jivanti. It's the way of life of a devotee. Jivanti. It's whatever the prescribed duty is, whatever your nature, psychophysical, occupation, whatever it is, you continue with that and give your life to these topics. Paragraph. Hearing those topics, they relish them as their very life. Jivanti. You cannot be attained, ajita, by the actions of body, mind, and words alone, since you are beyond the senses, being self-manifested, but you are attained by your devotees. So this word attained is being used again and again. Because going back to the very first verse, Brahma wants to attain Krishna. Now, what does that mean? Attain. Well, materially attain means you have a lofty goal and you attain the position of whatever it is I want to become, fill in the blank. And you endeavor to attain that. You want to become an engineer, or you want to become, a millionaire, or you want to become a great athlete, or you want to become something. In this case, attaining for the devotee is Krishna's association, Krishna's direct association. And they want to attain, and the means is giving their life to these topics as their object of love and adoration and absorption with body, mind, and words. Paragraph. You're not attainable, but you are attained and controlled by the devotees. This is constantly visible by the actions of their body, mind, and words. You are attained directly by their bodies, minds, and words. Their hands touch your lotus feet. They call you by their words. They decide to see you by their mind. Last paragraph, and we'll move on to the next verse. Can you get the next verse ready? It's text 4. You, along with your body, mind, and words, are not attained, but you and your body, mind, and words are controlled. Your body is brought under control since you stay near the devotee. Your words are under control since you glorify your devotees. Your mind is controlled since you always think of your devotee. So we're going to recite text 4, 10:14:4, responsively. Shayak shatim bhaktim udashyate vibho. Krishyanti ye kevela bodha labdyate. Labdhaye tesham asau kleshala eva shishyate. Nanyad yatastula tushavagatinam. Translation, my dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. Now, as I was reading it this afternoon, I was thinking of Queen Kunti's prayers where she does the same thing. Here's your phone. She glorifies devotional service. Here, Brahma is glorifying devotional service as the means to reach him, the best path. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. So the phrase, going back to the Sanskrit, Devotional service unto you is the best. That's Shreya Shratim Bhaktim. Shreya Shratim Bhaktim. Shratim means the path. Shreya is the best. The best path is bhakti, the best path of self-realization. This is because the previous verse is what's the means of achieving the goal, and it's bhakti, and bhakti is the best path. And then it does a contrast. In education, one of the tools of education is compare and contrast. There's this, and unlike this is that. To understand this, it's not that. Compare and contrast. So there's the process of Gyan, and those who give up the bhakti process and take instead to the Gyan process, they don't get self-realization. All they get is labor, like thrashing empty bunches of wheat that the wheat has already been separated. Chaff. Thrashing the chaff when the wheat's been separated. You don't get wheat. You get work, you get labor, but you don't get any wheat. Similarly, self-realization isn't achieved by the Gyan process. Whatever is achieved by the Gyan process, it's included within bhakti. That's the message. Bhakti is up here, the process of Gyan is down there. Here's the purport from BBT, from your Bhagavatam there in your lap. Loving service to the Supreme Person is the natural and eternal function of every living entity. If a person renounces his own constitutional function and instead laboriously seeks to so-called enlightenment through impersonal speculative knowledge, his result is simply the trouble and bother that come from following an artificial process. A fool may beat an empty husk, not knowing that the grain has already been removed. Similarly, foolish is the person who throws his mind again and again into the pursuit of knowledge without surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is the very substance and goal of knowledge. Just as grain is the substance and goal of the entire agricultural effort. Vedic knowledge, or indeed material science without the personality of Godhead, is exactly like an empty and useless husk of wheat. One may argue that by practicing yoga or cultivating impersonal knowledge, one can acquire prestige, wealth, mystic powers, and even impersonal liberation. But these so-called gains are actually useless because they do not situate the living being in his constitutional position of loving service to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, such results, being superfluous to the living being's essential nature, are impermanent. As stated in the Shringa Purana, Prateshu, Patreshu, Pushpeshu, Paleshu, Toyeshu, Akriti, Labhyeshu, Vadaiva Satsu, Bhaktya su labhye purushe purane muktai kim artam kriyate prayatnaha. Translation is, since the primeval personality of Godhead is easily attained by offering him such things as leaves, flowers, fruits, and water, which are all found without difficulty, why does one need to endeavor for liberation separately? Paragraph. Although the process of devotional service to Lord Krishna is very simple, it is extremely difficult for stubborn, conditioned souls to completely humble themselves before the Supreme Personality Godhead and absorb themselves 24 hours a day in his loving service. The mood of loving service is anathema. Anathema, you know the meaning? vocabulary? Detestful, like yuck, anathema. To belligerent souls don't like loving service. They have to be submissive and subordinate and serve someone else, and they don't like it. Detestful. To belligerent conditioned souls determined to defy God and enjoy. When such stubborn conditioned souls attempt to bypass surrendering to God through proud attempts at philosophical speculation, austerity, and yoga, they are turned back to the material platform by the powerful laws of God and violently merge into the heaving ocean of insignificance called the material world. Very poetic sounding, huh? And we'll end with just reading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, which includes some of what we just read. Here's a summary. By performing one among the many methods of bhakti, such as hearing and chanting, the jiva can achieve success. This is stated in the Shringa Purana, already quoted. That is, the devotees can easily attain the Lord by worshipping with devotion, using leaves, flowers, fruit, and water, which are easily available. Then why do you make efforts for liberation? Question. Though this is so, those who reject bhakti and make efforts in gyan attain only a lot of suffering. This is the intention of this verse. Summarizing, those who reject, or udasya, those who reject the path of auspiciousness, shreya shritim, that's how the verse starts, shreya shritim, the path of auspiciousness, the stream of bhakti, flowing like a river of honey, which is from Sridhar Swami's commentary. The stream of bhakti flows like a river of honey, and those who reject it achieve only suffering. Shreya, there's Shreyas and Preyas. Shreya refers to the fruits of other processes such as jnana and karma. I never studied Sanskrit, but I just by hearing Prabhupada again and again, there's certain Sanskrit terms I understand, and something I learned early. Shreya and Preya. He said there are these two terms. Shreya means short-term, Preya means long-term benefit. He would give the example like a child likes to play. All children like to play. And that's short-term. But at some point, parents say, sorry, but you have to go to school. Can't just play all day. Oh, we want to play. But you have to consider, long-term. So there's a long-term. You defer some of the shreyas to do some of the preyas, the long-term benefit. So there's shreya uttama. So I think I've got it backwards. Preyas means short-term. Shreyas means long-term. Yeah. So shreya uttama. So this is the path of shreyas. Shreya shritim. Bhakti is the path which gives all these fruits. It is thus called shreya shritim. The jnana of those who reject bhakti gives only suffering. Klesha, suffering. That is like taking a huge pile of empty husks and beating it. The result of the effort is pain in the hands and no rice or no wheat. So there's one more section I could read. Maybe I'll not read it tonight and we'll go to there tomorrow. Little summary of what's being said here. The person speaking, of course, is Lord Brahma. Brahma is the firstborn living being. He's the creator of the universe. He's the head of the sampradaya. He manifests all the Vedas. So he's giving like the big picture from the Vedic wisdom of this original form of Krishna, which very mercifully appears in this world for the pleasure to reciprocate with his devotees, that was said in the previous verse. And he's reciprocating with the love of those in Vrindavan who he has appeared to reciprocate with and nourish their love through his loving dealings. And to attain that association is the goal. And the main goal, method of achieving the goal is hearing and chanting. Dedicating one's life, jivanti, to the activities of Krishna, hearing, chanting, remembering them. This is the path of raga. There's rules or vidhis of bhakti. When we're practicing sadhana bhakti, there's some rules we follow. It's not the rules aren't the essence. They just help to elevate one to the quality of goodness. The essence is not the rules. The essence is the awakening of devotion. And as that devotion becomes awakened and matures, one continues to follow the rules, but inside there's a hankering to be with Krishna, to be in direct contact with Krishna, to be with him, to play with him, or if you're a cowherd boy, or if you're the parent, whatever the rasa is, to be with Krishna in those ways. So we're in this world, we're not there. But so we're doing things of this world that are theistic in its nature, but internally there's this cultivation of hankering to attain Krishna. Brahma has that. He's expressing it. The residents of Vrindavan already have it. He wants to achieve what they have. Way up here, his place in the whole universe, he is the topmost personality, the most intelligent. He built the universe. You can't go higher than Brahma within the universe. As far as he's concerned, he wants to become like the residents of Vrindavan. His attainment is it's service, and he's appreciating the kindness that Krishna has given him to be the creator of the universe, or builder, the engineer of the universe. And that's nice. That's a service. But he's hankering for the intimacy of his association. Bhakti is the means, giving strong dedication and reverence and body, mind, and words dedicated to those topics about Krishna. And letting go of the speculative means. And then he says in reverse, if you let go of the bhakti process and do the speculative means instead, you're not going to get self-realization, what to speak of attaining Krishna. You thrash chaff and all you get is sore hands. You don't get any grain. The self-realization slips through. There may be some, not only maybe, they're with the process of Gyan or yoga, because the next verse is going to go to the yogis, those who perform austerities in the yoga practice. The bhakti is highest. The Gyan process is not as high as bhakti. It can control the mind and senses, yes, but it can't reach Krishna. And then he's going to go to, and then there's the yogis. And now the yogis can perfect themselves by the same method, by dedication to the topics of Krishna, hearing, chanting, and remembering the topics of Krishna. we're followers. The Lord Chaitanya, you all know who is Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya is in the line of Brahma, Lord Brahma. His guru was in the line of Madhvacharya, the line of Lord Brahma. Brahma, Madhva, disciplic line, Madhvacharya. So what he's describing is what we do. From the Bhagavatam, he's describing the process of bhakti and the relative significance that's placed in bhakti, gyan, and yoga. Now, question. If he's speaking about the lesser importance of the process of cultivation of knowledge, then why are we reading Srimad Bhagavatam? Because it sounds like we're cultivating knowledge. That's a reasonable question, isn't it? So the answer is, if you're just reading like an intellectual may read or an academic person may read, and all you're interested in by the speculative process is this and that and the other thing, and you have a big, I call it an information basket, and you're filling up your information basket, it's not going to bear fruit, because there are persons that read or recite the Bhagavatam that don't have the fruit. So the approach in reading or trying to understand is to nourish bhakti, so that one's life can be then dedicated to that mood of devotion, internally and externally. The things that you do are for the satisfaction and pleasure of the personality of Godhead. The things that you do, you're cooking and eating and working and thising and thating, studying, and the things that one does. When the bhakti process elevates the consciousness to dedicate those things to Krishna's service. That's the verse 3 that we read. Stane stata. Stay in your position. Shrutikatan tanavan madobir. And dedicate yourself, body, mind, and words, to the topics of Krishna. Do your things, and also regularly engage in hearing and chanting. I got a letter today from a girl. She's in her undergraduate study of pre-medicine, and she has a lot of homework because she's all taking advanced placement courses, and I'm speaking this for the three of you here. She's got a lot of academic pressure, and she's chanting japa every day. In her case, she's chanting 16 rounds every day. And 3 times a week, there's different reading groups. Some are college kids like her. There's like 8 or 10 of them. And they'll just want to stay connected to Prabhupada's books. So they, once a week, for 45, 50 minutes, they read together. And they go back to their academic work. And then on weekends, there's another call she has with a few friends, and some other calls with some new people. So she's getting some regular dose of Prabhupada's books and enjoying it. And she's chanting regularly, and she's, dedicating herself. Her medical profession is a way of using her nature to dedicate herself to service to others and service to Krishna. It's a wonderful example. She's a very good role model for other young people. So in the course of, just before coming here, I was in Virginia, Maryland area for quite some time. And there's one family, their daughter is just in the stage of making application for colleges. So she's going to be joining that one of those weekly reading groups of this girl that's already in her undergraduate study, pre-medicine. The message here is it's practical for young people to take these principles and apply them. There is association available. There are those that are doing that, and they're feeling different about, there's pressure and stress and all of that goes along with what young people have to go through in academic excellence today. Not just getting by, but, academic excellence. There's pressure. But there's a way to do it where it's... it adds a whole other dimension, a whole other sense of purpose and meaning than just, the material competition thing that life is made up of. Doing well and getting recognized and going on to the next thing that's a challenge, and doing well and getting recognized and moving along life with that, very flat sense of life's purpose. There is a deeper purpose, and awakening it is very nice. And are you part of one of these reading groups for the adults?
I am.
You are. So same, just yesterday evening, young couple, 2 small children, and every day, 5 days of the week, I was like, your children are a little more grown up. Theirs are, far more dependent. One little baby, and then a young girl, kind of active young girl, all over the place. So still, 5 days of the week, they're tuning in for an hour of reading. And they were ear to ear happy, saying we wouldn't miss it. We really look forward. I was thinking, with your newborn, your young children, and work, and household, and this and that, and it's awesome. And they just repeated it. We wouldn't miss it. It adds another dimension. It's what this verse is speaking about. Dedicating jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartan tanavan manobir, dedicating body, minds, and words to these topics. And it has an effect. It's not a knowledge basket filling effect. It's a invigorating spiritual effect. The soul awakens. Spiritual awakening happens just by hearing these topics. An attraction to transcendence, an attraction to... you don't abandon your worldly duties, but the attraction to transcendence in the course of living your life. So that when the passing of the soul from this body takes place, there's some eternal shelter awaiting you that your mind goes to because you cultivate it during your life. Sometimes we get so busy being successful, we don't have time for that. And that's unfortunate. There must be time for it, for a soul's progressive journey towards whatever the goal is, the destination. The destination is attaining Krishna. Just like your children, there's some goal awaiting them, that, go to college. And another letter came today. Someone is just completing, this is Donna Leela in Houston, just about to complete, thinking about, the next, so job search. Then there's the next thing, and then there's the next thing. There's always the next thing awaiting to attain in the worldly feature. But she's chanting 16 rounds without much association. She has a devotee family, but as far as pure association, not much. They're reading they have a weekly reading group. Yeah. But there's a whole other dimension to her life that others that are not doing that chanting and reading don't have. She's, spiritually an evolved soul. But it takes some dedication, some sacrifice, some body-minded words, Tanavan Manobir, dedication to the topics. The topics of Krishna, the name of Krishna, the teachings of Krishna, the form of Krishna. That's how this chapter begins. Brahma is seeing the form, and he's meditating on that form. He's giving us a way to meditate on Krishna's form. We can't see. He's seeing, he's describing what he sees. It's very nice. That's these topics. It creates that consciousness transformation, just hearing. So let's see if there's some discussion. Anything here in the home?
Yeah. I just had a very general question.
Sure.
So can you explain, the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara?
Sure.
It's probably a basic question, but I think for my children it will be very helpful.
Okay.
And why, people worship different. I know, like in India, people do not worship Brahma a lot, but they worship Vishnu and Maheshwara. So if you can explain that as well.
Okay. These three are, and the technical term is guna avatars. Guna means mode of nature. Avatar means one who descends. They take responsibility for overseeing each of the three modes of nature. The mode of creation is passion. Brahma oversees that. He creates the universe. The mode of destruction of the universe, Lord Shiva oversees that. Tamagun. And maintenance of the universe, Lord Vishnu oversees that. So these are the three modes that conduct all the affairs of the material creation, and that's their exaltedness. They oversee material creation in terms of these three principles, the modes of nature. So that's the sense of Trinity that's found in Christianity has no correlation with Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. No correlation. Just three. That's all. The only correlation is that the number is three. And why people worship Vishnu and Shiva but not Brahma, there's some Puranic story that I can't recall right at the moment, that there was some utterance that you will not be worshipped. So he's not worshipped, and usually not worshipped. And I don't know, I can't recall the Puranic story. Do you recall the Puranic story? So it was uttered, and the Lord upheld that what somebody uttered, and he's not commonly worshipped. Okay, we'll go to online. The longer we discuss in the room, it gives more time for people to send in questions, because they keep popping up as we go along.
This question is from Rasakrida Prabhu. Is there details of pastime when Lord Brahma offered Brahma Samhita prayers?
Well, yes, it's described in Brahma Samhita. The description in Brahma Samhita leads up to the point where he, Brahma, is engaged in his tapa, his austerity, and his austerity or tapa is chanting of mantra. He receives two mantras. First, a mantra, the Madan Gopal mantra, and he meditates upon that. Then after some time from Krishna's flute, he receives another mantra, and he meditates on that. And the statement is, he then becomes well acquainted with the ocean of truth. That's the Vedas. The knowledge of the Vedas becomes imparted in his heart. And he has a beginning understanding of his spiritual form as a maidservant of Krishna. So that's the story or the pastime connected with, he then offers these prayers, the Brahma Samhita prayers. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That's the story.
So if Brahma is the creator of the universe, why does Krishna have the mystical powers that Brahma does not have?
Because Krishna is the source of Brahma. Krishna is the source of everything, including Brahma. And Brahma, he's the creator per se, but he's more literally, more precisely, he's the engineer. Krishna is the source of everything. So from Krishna comes everything, including the ingredients for creation, the plan for creation, the ability for Brahma to create, Shrishti Shakti, the potency to create. He gives him self-realization. It's like on your market set, then he builds the universe. So Krishna has unlimited mystic powers and unlimited everything, and Brahma has some portion of that unlimited everything, specific to creation of the universe. That's a small part of the big picture, and Krishna has the big picture. And so everything's subordinate to Krishna. We had this discussion the other morning about being dependent upon the Supreme Independent. And we have minute independence, but even that minute independence is dependent. We can't just do whatever we want. We don't have unlimited freedom. So anyway, specific to your question, Brahma is a small subset of the totality of everything, specific to the creation, the engineering or construction of the universe.
This question is from yesterday's host, her daughter, 4-year-old. Why does Brahma have 4 heads?
We discussed it. Go ahead.
The next question is from Sanchari. Guru Maharaj, is there a reason why Lord Brahma has more intimate pastimes with Krishna and his pastimes than in the pastimes of Krishna's other avatars like Rama, Nrsimha, where his role seems to be more sidelined? It seems from the beginning of his existence to his special pastimes with Vrindavan Krishna that his heart is being called towards Krishna and no one else. Does this speak to the soul who is performing the duties of Brahma being from Goloka Vrindavan?
No. Brahma has different functions with Lord Ram than with Krishna, but one of those functions that he does with Lord Ram is he empowers Valmiki to write Ramayana. He is the guru of Hanuman. It's described like that in Valmiki Ramayana. Hanuman has a teacher. He teaches him all of the Vedas. And then Hanuman uses that teaching to do what he does to serve Ram. So in one sense, the servant of the servant of the servant is more intimate than one who comes to Vrindavan and steals the calves and cowherd boys. Much more intimate, being the servant of the servant than disrupting. Oh, it's he just has a different function, not more intimate necessarily.
This next question is from Taruni Radha Mataji. By dedicating one's life to hearing, one is dovetailing the hearing propensity in Krishna's service. Does this also result in all the other senses being engaged in Krishna's service eventually?
Eventually, yes. If you hear, it moves the heart. If you hear properly, it moves the heart. And when the heart moves, everything else moves.
And this question is from Kishore Prabhu, yesterday's host. Do the yogis understand the process of bhakti but still to take a different path? Why do they get liberation? When do they get liberation?
We'll hear the answer to your question tomorrow morning. But I'll give a little prelude. Bhaktivinoda Thakur teaches that someone is identified as being a practitioner of a particular stage of the yoga ladder if they stay on that rung of the ladder. But yoga practitioners are meant, as we'll hear tomorrow, and as Kapila Dev teaches in the third canto Bhagavatam, that meditation process, yoga is meant to not just achieve mystic powers, but fix the mind upon the Supreme Lord, and then fixing the mind upon the Supreme Lord to enter into the realm of bhakti. To enter into the realm of bhakti, one requires an association with a bhakta. Otherwise, you'll stay on this rung of the ladder. But the yogi becomes perfect or liberated when he engages in hearing and chanting the topics of the personality of Godhead. Then he becomes situated in bhakti yoga and achieves perfection. That's how. But if you want a far more detailed description, you can read chapter 26 of Canto 3. You'll get more details about how the yogi becomes a devotee and achieves perfection.
And his second question is, did Lord Brahma meditate on the Lord in the process of bhakti before receiving Vedic knowledge?
Yes. He meditated upon him in the form of mantra. And mantra also has form. And then he realized the personality guided because the personality guided appeared before him. You'll find that in Canto 2, Chapter 9. Brahma is in this meditation space, darkness in all directions, doing his meditation, his tapa, and then the form of the Lord appeared before him, kind of like in the midst of the darkness. It was effulgent, and it was in surrounded by all of his associates in the spiritual realm. It must have been really far out. And then they had some dialogue. So even before he manifested all of the Vedas, that exchange took place.
And this question is from Kalpataru Mataji. Thinking about the fact that I'm not from a devotee family, nor have I gotten introduced to Krishna consciousness too long ago, I know I'm not there yet and have learned from Nectar of Devotion the 6 favorable principles of pure devotional service, of which Utsaha Nishchaya, Nectar of Instruction, Utsaha Nishchaya Dhairyat. One should perform regulative activities of devotional service with patience and confidence.
Yeah.
Hearing about we will or I will not be able to, or I may or may not be able to attain the goal of attaining Krishna in this lifetime makes me downhearted. My enthusiasm weakens, which also prevents me from keeping my patience in this journey. Can you please help, Guru Maharaj?
Associate with those who are faithful and you'll solve the problem. Because that faithfulness that they have will become yours. And your good husband is one such person. Oh. Huh? Okay. Okay. Fine, just associate with those who are faithful, and that will become yours, and that will help you in this feeling discouraged. The feeling how will I ever be successful? But the process of bhakti has all potency within it to achieve the goal. Okay.
This question is from Amrita Keli Mataji. I'm thinking of this beating of empty husk as our endeavor for material happiness. Hard labor to find happiness in a place where there is no happiness. When we hear about it and also experience it, why do we go back to beating that empty husk again and again? Why can't my intelligence remember the past experience and stop that endeavor once and for all?
Two things. The example of empty husks has to do with the Gyan process, not the karma process. But the same principle applies. And why is because we're conditioned, we're habituated to material activity. This plane of the earthly realm is symptomized by fruitive activity. It's the place of intense fruitive activity. It's the nature of the place. So why, we're here because it fits our nature. And we keep going back because we're conditioned. Even we know better. That's just conditioning.
This is from Param Karuna Prabhu. When Lord Krishna instructed 4 essential verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna came in a cowherd form. I don't know if this is a statement or... or maybe the question is, did Krishna come in the cowherd form?
We don't have that indication. The 4 essential verses are described. Canto 2, Chapter 9 mentioned it already. And it's the form of Vishnu that he encounters, not the child form of Krishna, original form of Krishna. That's what we find in Canto 2, Chapter 9, not the child form. That's it.
I have,
Okay.
it's not a question.
It's a comment?
It's just my understanding of
What you just heard.
Your teachings today. I often have in my mind this this conflict between jnana and karma, and emotion and practice. But hearing you talk today, my understanding is it's when you reach that perfect balance of jnana and emotion, on jnana and karma, that you feel a sense of peace and happiness. I hope I'm understanding that right.
Well, your understanding is your understanding, but it's what we heard today is not exactly what you just said. Let me say back what.
Okay.
In relation to Gyan and karma, what hasn't been spoken about yet, it's not what we covered today, it's about karma. It's speaking about bhakti and Gyan. Now, bhakti doesn't mean karma. Karma is a term that means perform religious duties. there's dharma, and you do the dharma, and that's what good karma is. You do what you're obliged to do according to the theistic conduct, the codes of the Vedas. That's what karma is. And bhakti is not just doing the prescribed duties of life. Bhakti is the dedication of all those things for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both inside and outside. That's bhakti. It's a mood. You use the word emotion. It's a feeling, but it's more than a feeling. Not just a feeling. Bhakti is not just a feeling. Bhakti is practical activity. The dhatu for bhakti is bhaj, the verbal root. And it means senses, sense objects, contacting senses, sense objects with the senses for the purpose of pleasing the master of the senses. It's the mood of love, but it's practical activity. So it may sound like karma because it's work, but it's not karma in the strict sense of what karma is. It's activity, but for the purpose of pleasing the Supreme. Okay. So that's bhakti. So what your question is the balance between bhakti, I think you're saying, the work that's with devotion to the Supreme, and where does the cultivation of knowledge fit into that? The balance, it was the word that you used. So where there's no balance exactly. It's elevating wanting to know and hearing because you want to know to the point of nourishing bhakti, that the mood of love towards the Supreme by hearing. And thus your children in their student stage of life, or yourselves in your working stage of life, to dedicate those things to Krishna is nourished by the hearing process. It awakens bhakti. So it's not exactly balance. It's disconnect with simply cultivation of trying to understand the Absolute through your intellectual capacity, instead through your devotional capacity, the loving devotion. And then the final part is, yes, there's a sense of peace and contentment within. That is not achieved by simply trying to understand higher things, transcendence, through speculative power. Send a rocket ship up, and how far do you have to send a rocket ship up until you can reach the personality of Godhead? I just read an article today when the Sputnik was sent into outer space by the Russian cosmonauts. They reported back, we traveled in outer space and we didn't see God there either.
But he wasn't there to look for.
Well, however, whether it's a rocket ship or whether it's the power of intellect to speculate, to understand things, the personality of Godhead is not approachable by that method. That's what's being said. Right. So it's not a balance of gyan. It's a dismissal of that very type of effort, and instead still wanting to know, but wanting to know by the hearing process and nourishing the spirit of loving service. And then there's contentment within. There's not exactly balance between this and that. It's focus on bhakti, and then spiritualizing the I want to know feature, the spiritualizing the activity feature, nourished by, elevated by loving service. And that loving service is awakened and strengthened by the hearing and chanting, dedicating oneself to the topics of the personality of Godhead throughout one's life. Then everything becomes elevated, not balanced, but everything reaches a higher platform through the power of bhakti. That's the message. Okay? Are we anything more online? we're done. Neither of you want to offer anything. Okay. Something further? No?
No, I have a lot of questions, but we.
We're done. Otherwise, if you're done, we're done. Huh? Okay, well, let's see. You do your one more. He can do his other ones too. And we're here to respond and reciprocate.
This is from Lingaraj Prabhu. This is from Aditya, Lingaraj Prabhu's son.
How old is he?
He is 11. 11, yeah. When Krishna appears on the earth once in every day of Brahma, do the same demons and the same pastimes happen again?
Yes. They're not exactly the same jivas, but the same spirit of exchange. Because the according to what our acharyas explain, there's a certain sense of, uh-oh, danger, and then the residents of Vrindavan go, Krishna. So there's taking intensification of shelter of Krishna along, or astonishment how Krishna dismisses them and so forth. So there's the killing of demons is incidental, and the primary is nourishing the love of the devotees, the Brijbasis. So different living entities come, and different entities are delivered. But there's similar pastimes with different living entities performing those functions, because the main thing is bhava. The main thing is the spiritual emotion, not the, Krishna got rid of this one, that one. The dismissal of the demons. It's the nourishing of the bhava of the residents of Vrindavan. That's essential. Okay?
Bro, just so for the general question. So Krishna is known, people mostly from India and through the ISKCON movement, to other parts of the world, but still less than half the world knows about Krishna.
Yeah.
But there is other half of the world where there are good people who do everything right. Yet, what happens to them? Do they achieve the same level through their good deeds and good, things they do in their life? Service to mankind. People dedicate their lives for so many different things. Do they not reach Vaikuntha?
There's different levels of attainment or reaching a destination after this life. Doing good things, assuming it's not just nominal, good things in name only, but their life is dedicated in goodness, they go to the heavenly region. Urdvam gacchanti sattvastha. By sattva, by the mode of goodness, one goes to the place where the mode of goodness prevails. That's heaven, Swarga. That's the destination of people who do good things. There may be persons that do good things, and there's a greater degree of consciousness of God as they're doing good things. And so their elevation may be higher. There's other planets above heaven within the universe that may be their destination. It's not, Vaikuntha means one has become a pure devotee. Squeaky clean. Not just goodness, but Shuddha Sattva. No mixture of ignorance, passion. That means they know the personality of Godhead, Narayana. And their everything is dedicated to Narayana, not just doing good things. Then they go to Vaikuntha. So good things isn't the barometer.
Right. No, my question is more, what if people don't know, right? People don't know about Krishna, they don't know about all these things.
Supposing they know about Narayana, supposing they know about something, they attain that. Let's say it this way. Prabhupada was once asked in a letter, one of my temple presidents long ago, name is Rupanuga, he wrote to Prabhupada, saying, what's the destination of a perfect Christian? But that's what you're asking. Yes?
Right.
And Prabhupada's answer is very hard to find, very rare to find a perfect Christian today. But if there was one, they would attain Brahmaloka. And in that life in Brahmaloka, they could go on further to the pure devotion platform. Because he didn't elaborate. Now this is me elaborating, having grown up in a Christian tradition. Christ said, "There's so much more I have to tell, but you cannot bear to hear. I'm telling you of worldly things and you're having difficulty. What to speak of other worldly things?" So a large part of what he was teaching was proper conduct. The 10 Commandments: don't kill, don't commit adultery, And then the highest teaching, love God with all thy heart, with all thy mind, with all thy strength. But, where is there that person that does that? If there is such a person that does that, so it's not just a matter of knowing who is Krishna. It's a matter of knowing full, not just notional, but full dedication to the person, the personality of Godhead, who reveals himself to one who devotes themselves to him. So there's degrees of dedication, degrees of revelation, and so there's also degrees of attainment.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Here's another one in relation to your question. Someone asked, is there such a thing as Christ Loka? Meaning a place where people who are dedicated to Christ will go. That's the inference of that question. And Prabhupada said, yes, why not? There's so many lokas. So there is a place where persons dedicated to, this is Buddhism. There's a place where those who worship Amitabha Buddha go. According to the most prevalent form of Buddhism today. They do good things if they live according to his teachings. So there's a place, the land of pure bliss. It sounds like a heavenly planet the way they describe it. But it's not Krishna Loka and it's not Vaikuntha. It's a place. It's a higher place so that truly love of God can be awakened. Now, let's take the example of luminaries in Christian tradition, or I'm sure there are such luminaries in all traditions, Sikh tradition and whatever, Islam. So, but Saint Thomas or it's very exalted persons. So where do they go? They go to Christ Loka or Brahma Loka, because their dedication to God and a life of goodness in connection with God is way up there. They're luminaries. They're very elevated persons. But it's the general, the good person kind of category, they're not going to achieve Vaikuntha. And their goodness is also mixed with so many other things. The modes of nature mixture is strong. You don't go to Vaikuntha without attaining Shuddha Sattva, which is accessible through bhakti. So the bhakti principle is not some exclusive franchise on bhakti for those who are followers of Krishna. There is Krishna bhakti, but there's bhakti of the personality of Godhead who's in the spiritual realm, Vaikuntha realm. They attain Vaikuntha. They have pure devotion also. It's the principle. It's not otherwise.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Girls, last chance. Okay. Thank you very much, Prabhupada Ki Jai.